Sarah's off tonight, and the Luxor is off to a successful launch of its grand opening. Crowds pushed through the front door less than 24 hours ago. And as Anita Lightfoot tells us in our top story, the controlled chaos has been non-stop ever since.
It's opening day at the Luxor, and it seems everyone had the same idea. Come in and check it out. Thousands funneled through the entryway to see for themselves what everyone has been talking about.
It's beautiful.
It's fabulous. Really fabulous.
Wonderful. Pretty amazing what they've done here.
It looks great. It's fabulous. We sort of figured it was going to be solid on the inside. And all the more impressive that it's so hollow.
Hollow, but definitely not empty. After giving the place the once over, it was time to start doing what most folks in casinos do: gamble. No matter how turned around or how lost you get here at the Luxor, there is one thing guaranteed you'll run into: everybody else. And all these people here mean one thing to Luxor workers: work. About how many cars do you park?
Personally, probably by the end of the night, a couple hundred.
About how many times do you think you're going to ride the Nile before the day's over?
Probably about 30. About 30 times if I'm lucky.
Very busy. How busy? Extremely busy. For the Luxor and its employees, those words have a nice ring. Anita Lightfoot, News 3.
You're listening to the Hour of the Time. I'm William Cooper. We're going to be talking tonight about what we found on our trip to the Luxor Hotel in Las Vegas, Nevada. Driving across the desert of Nevada, approaching from the Boulder City Highway, looming off in the distance is an incredible sight. If you did not absolutely know where you were at, you would tend to believe that you were delirious and had somehow been transported to the desert of Egypt. Rising up above the city of Las Vegas is a black, reflecting, huge pyramid, easily as big as the Great Pyramid of Cheops in Egypt. On the top of this pyramid is a crystal capstone, or what appears or looks like crystal capstone, reflecting the sunlight in every direction. If you've ever looked at a polished piece of black obsidian volcanic glass, that might give you some idea of what the surface of this pyramid looks like. As you travel closer along the highway, you begin to see looming up in front of the pyramid an exact replica of the Sphinx. And in front of the Sphinx, towering approximately 150 feet in the air, the phallus of Osiris, an obelisk, for those of you who have not followed our series on the mysteries. And if you don't know what an obelisk is, I'm sure you're acquainted with the Washington Monument. The sight is absolutely awe-inspiring. The sheer size of this structure is overwhelming. It covers an area so large that driving around it, one begins to wonder how in the world this could have ever been built, much less built in the short period of time that it was, in fact, assembled. During the time that the Luxor Hotel was under construction, a huge fence surrounded the area. They had armed guards on patrol. No one was allowed to watch the construction or see what was going on, except that part which loomed above the fence. No visitors were allowed to watch the construction, and no press was given access. When we first drove to the Luxor, went around this huge, tremendous complex upon which this hotel sits, and then finally went across the street, parked the car, put our press passes on the front of our garments, got out with our video cameras. I looked directly across the street and was confronted with the head of Tutankhamun, who then promptly winked at me. Everything about this ninth wonder of the world, for it truly is, I can assure you, leaves one with a sense of awe, a sense of disbelief, overwhelming beauty. It is, in fact, beautiful beyond description. What I'm trying to do here is convey to you what I saw, and there are not words enough to do it. Now, if you've listened to our series on Mystery Babylon, you know that the Egyptian pyramids were never tombs. They were not burial places or crypts for the bodies of kings or queens or anyone else. They were temples, great temples of the mystery religion, and they functioned for the purpose of initiation. I can assure you that the Luxor Hotel in Las Vegas is a temple of initiation for the masses, the millions upon millions of people who visit that city each year. Probably billions. Not just from America, but primarily from America, but also from around the world. For every single bit of symbolism connected with the mysteries is built into this hotel, beginning with the obelisk, which represents the generative force, the Sphinx, which is to remind mankind that he is, after all, only an animal, you can think, and therefore is always engaged in this constant battle between the animal and the intellect. And then the great temple of initiation, the pyramid, this one with capstone intact, crystalline in nature, representing, as the sun reflects and glints off of every faceted side of it, representing the all-seeing eye. To give you some idea of the size of this structure, inside the building on the ground floor, 9 Boeing 747s would fit comfortably with no crowding and no problem. 9 Boeing 747, and those are the huge passenger jets. 9. Inside the building there is an obelisk which begins at the lowest floor, which is below the ground floor actually. Begins on the lowest floor, comes up through the casino onto the upper deck and points directly at the center apex, the zenith of the pyramid, is another obelisk. It is an incredible sight, ladies and gentlemen. Everywhere you go there are Egyptian hieroglyphics, scenes of all of the ancient gods. Remember I told you all the old gods are returning? Boy, are they ever. The whole story of the Osirian cycle is unfolded. The Nile River is there, and in fact, the Nile River circumnavigates the entire lower level, and they have great Egyptian barges upon which people ride.
Well, speaking of great things, you know, the great temples all up down the Nile in ancient times, that's where the people worship their gods, brought their offerings, their sacrifices to ensure harmony and all that. The chief temple of ancient Luxor was the Temple of Amun. Temple of Amun, that was built by the great king Ramses II. Matter of fact, here you see Ramses on his battle chariot right up here. And the inscription reads, wishing the king to defeat his enemies. Now, from the Temple of Amun, they got Amun himself here seated on his throne, his wife Mut, goddess of the night, and their son Khonsu, the moon god. Awesome. Notice the key of life there, the Ankh. That's found everywhere in Egyptian art. Now the Amun, they call him Ra-Harakte, the falcon-headed version of the sun god. Ra-Harakte, with the sun disk on his head up here. And then Queen Nefertari dressed in white, and she's being led by the goddess Isis. This is from the Valley of the Queens. And from there we journey to the Valley of the Kings, a scene from the tomb of King Tutankhamun, King Tut. Tut's successor eye here on the right, dressed in the leopard skin of a priest. He's performing a ceremony called opening of the mouth of Tut's mummy. These are very accurate renditions of the originals, by the way. The mummy's mouth is open so he could eat and have a good time in the afterlife. Here's a tomb painting from Deir el Medina. You see the Anubis jackals on guard here. Now, jackals would kind of hang around the cemeteries in ancient Egypt. They became associated with funerals. Ancient Egyptians said they were the guardians of the dead's domain. Apparently, they'd never heard of a pit bull in the guard stuff. Pit boss for them. No more for us. Here's coming up King Seti I, the father of Ramses II, Seti I. He's shown a blessing of bread here. I get sort of a weird feeling in this tunnel. If you recall, Lord Carnarvon was the man who financed the Tut expedition. Well, he died very mysteriously of a mosquito bite right after they opened the tomb. Newspapers of the day, they were calling it the curse of the pharaoh. Come here, I swear. You got how embarrassing to put on your tombstone. Here's a scene from Abu Simbel. Ramses II here grabbing his enemies. Notice the face looking out at you. That's very rare in Egyptian art. They always show people in profile. This was reserved exclusively for scenes of conquest. Ladies and gentlemen, we're just thrilled and amazed to dig up this next thing. The magnificent temple of Ramses II. The four large figures here on Ramses, the smaller figures by his legs, his immediate family. Something falcon down below here, the god Horus. Now the original temple like this in Egypt is much, much bigger. It was saved from the rising waters created by the Aswan Dam by an engineering miracle. They cut the stone temple apart by the puzzle, binding together with lotus and papyrus. This is another victory scene from Abu Simbel. The hieroglyphs here read unite. Notice the game they're holding is still alive. The food on their shoulders looks fresh. A scene like this inside a tomb would make sure they had a good supply of food in the afterlife, they said. Oh, on that way back panel, you see the jackal-headed god Anubis at the scales. He's weighing the heart of a dead person against a feather. Now, if your heart was not as light as that feather, maybe expect some bad things in the afterlife. That's the symbolic feather of truth they're weighing against there. Coming up here, a noble and his wife paying homage to Osiris. The inscription says, "May this beautiful day last forever for the afterlife." See those cones on top of their heads? Now those are perfumed wax balls, which during the hot daytime would melt down into their wigs, keep them smelling nice all day long. I don't know why this hadn't caught on in the 20th century. Now, Mac McPherson, our chief archaeologist, he's been rather busy down there below us, and on our attractions level, there's a trilogy story, which kind of filling in on that. Episode 1 of that trilogy is called The Future of Hope and Promise, I hope. Anyway, it's called The Entertainment of the Future up there. Right now, past, present, and the future sort of all culminate right here at the Luxor. The atrium space here at the pyramid, the world's largest atrium, by the way, over 29 million cubic feet of space. Big enough to stack up 9 747 airplanes here in the pyramid if you wanted to. Yeah, might have to move a slot machine or two. The inner apex of our pyramid, 270 feet straight above the attractions level, make it about 300 feet from the casino level. Room 3, you can see the temple of the crystal obelisk, there's number 1 up there. Besides the shows up there, though, the buffet is on that same level. So take a virtual land, a couple of nice shops to snoop around in, and an ice cream place.
Around the inside perimeter of this great pyramid. The rooms are all built into the outer walls. There are no rooms inside the walls. They are in the walls of the pyramid, and each floor is on a level that juts out above the floor below it all the way up. The elevators are inclinators, and they travel up to the different floors. 4 elevators or inclinators, one at each corner of the pyramid. The space inside this building is awesome. It's overwhelming. As you travel up the escalator and walk down the steps into what appears to be a city within a pyramid, in the midst of which is this huge obelisk pointing toward the apex above. Lasers of different colors flash and cross the air in front and around and over you everywhere you go. There are lights, and there are television sets every which way you turn, of every conceivable size, until you finally stand and you're looking up at the side of what appears to be a skyscraper inside this pyramid, on the side of which is a huge television screen, and it reminds you of George Orwell's 1984. That immediately comes to mind. For everywhere you look, there are eyes and television sets, just as what was described in 1984, or in Huxley's Brave New World. There is no doubt whatsoever that the people who built this resort hotel were not only well versed in the mysteries, but were experts, are experts in the mysteries. They understood everything. There is a 3-chapter episode consisting of 3 different rides or experiences, whatever you want to call it, called The Search for the Obelisk. And everywhere there are screens giving you little previews of these 3 different episodes or chapters. And you need 3 different places to go to experience this over a period of time. And they are urging you to come join the quest. If you read my book and if you've paid attention during the mystery series broadcasts of the Hour of the Time, you know that at the heart and soul of all of what's happening in the world is the order of the quest. Benjamin Franklin talked about the order of the quest. He, in all actuality, was a member of the Order of the Quest. He was also a Freemason. He was also the Grand Master of the Lodge of 9 Muses.
The Muses are extremely important figures in Greek mythology. Poets like Homer and Hesiod did not forget to pay homage to them in their main works. These authors believed that their inspiration depended on these deities' blessings, with which they could produce their magnum opuses, such as the Iliad and the Odyssey. And this is one of the reasons why they were known as inspirational muses. In the most common versions, the Muses were the 9 beautiful daughters of Zeus, and Mnemosyne, a Titanide who was the deity of memory. The Muses dwelled in bucolic places where they recited poems, sang, and danced. The god Apollo, who was also the god of music, adored the company of the beautiful Muses and felt inspired by them whenever he was writing his greatest songs. The Muses also joined the Olympian banquets, and the gods were marveled by how gracefully they sang and danced. But the Muses' favorite place was the Mount Helicon. This was the location of the famous source of inspiration, also known as the Fountain of Hippocrene. This fountain emerged when the winged horse Pegasus paid a visit to the Muses on the hill. Pegasus hit the rocks with his hooves, and on the source of impact appeared the renowned fountain that the Muses consecrated in honor to the god Apollo. Each muse had her own task. Calliope, the most famous among the Muses, was accountable for eloquence. The word was her gift. Melpomene was the muse of scenic arts associated with tragedies. In turn, Thalia was attached to comedy. Terpsichore was the music of dance. Clio, the muse of history. Euterpe is associated with lyric arts. Polyhymnia inspired the art of storytelling. Urania was connected to astronomy. Erato was associated with erotic poetry. Artists of ancient Greece prayed and offered sacrifices to the Muses. They did it to benefit from the influence of the deities through which their arts could become true masterpieces. In the beginning, the Muses were worshipped as virgin and pure women, but as centuries went by, the chastity of the Muses vanished. For instance, the outstanding musician Orpheus is the son of the god Apollo, with the muse Calliope. Shrines honoring the Muses were scattered throughout the Hellenic world. The Muses were worshipped in this place, rituals that included libations with water and honey. The worship of these deities was lost as time went by, but up to this day, every artist hopes to feel the touch of their own muse.
Thomas Jefferson was a member of this Order of the Quest, as was George Washington and just about every one of our forefathers. Come join the quest. It's all about the discovery 12,000 feet below the desert of an ancient ruin, of an ancient civilization, where they find levitating craft. Does that sound familiar? Any connection here with UFOs? Any connection with Hitler's belief that the Aryan race represented the survivors of a lost civilization, far advanced beyond what we are now? And that in this ruin, also this rings of the tails of the inner earth, in this ruin they supposedly found a crystal obelisk, which was stolen, by the way, by a Dr. Osiris, who now holds the key to the future of the earth and mankind. And everywhere you look are these plaques or emblems of the enlightened society for global transformation. The Enlightened Society for Global Transformation. You can stop and get a burger and a Coke or a beer or whatever you want, in fact, at the Millennium Cafe. I found it at first to be difficult to understand what was going on around me and to, in fact, keep from bumping into people because everyone was so preoccupied with looking up or looking behind them that we were all constantly bumping into each other. Men, women, children, didn't matter. Temples, emblems of the snake were everywhere. Now, on that first day, I very wisely retreated to get my wits about me. I took a little bit of information with me, did not do any filming, except from across the street. We filmed the whole outside of the hotel, nothing inside at that point, because, to tell you the truth, we were a little overwhelmed and didn't quite know where to start. I wondered how in the world this had come about. I found out through asking questions that the hotel and the grounds, the complex, the Sphinx, the obelisk, everything had cost $400 million. Paid for in cash, not one penny was taken out in loan to build this hotel. Now, if you ever had dreams of going to Las Vegas to win your fortune, I would suggest you take those dreams, put them in an iron box, lock them up, and throw them in the deepest river that you can find. For that $400 million, ladies and gentlemen, represents only the Luxor Hotel, and it came out of the pockets of all of the visitors to Las Vegas who had visited these hotel casinos. The Circus Hotel Casino, the Excalibur Hotel Casino, the Slots of Fun Casino and Silver City Casino, the Circus Hotel Casino in Reno, Nevada, the Colorado Bell Hotel Casino in Laughlin, and the Edgewater Hotel Casino in Laughlin. For it is the group that owns this conglomerate of hotels that built the Luxor. And it became no surprise to me to find out that it was Circus, which had also built the Excalibur Hotel. Now, if you listen to our series on the mysteries, you know that the Roman circus was built to take the attention of the people away from the emperor, to give them the games to quench their thirst for blood and excitement, so that when they went home at night they were exhausted and didn't feel like rebelling. And it served the emperor well for hundreds of years. So they built the Circus Hotel in Las Vegas, and then they built the Slots of Fun Casino, the Circus Hotel Casino in Reno, the Colorado Bell Hotel Casino in Laughlin, the Edgewater Hotel Casino in Laughlin, and then they went back to their theme and built the Excalibur Hotel in Las Vegas, which has to do all about the legend of King Arthur and the search for the Holy Grail, another quest. The Holy Grail in the mysteries has nothing to do with the cup that Jesus drank out of at the Last Supper. The Holy Grail in the mysteries, in fact, represents the bloodline of the house of David, those believed by the mysteries to have the divine right to rule. I've said this many, many times before. I will say it again. Whoever rules the world in the New World Order will lay claim to the ancestry of the house of David. And then the Luxor, the ultimate temple of initiation that has ever been built throughout history. The shows that you go to in this hotel are beyond description, and you'll have to wait until you can get a chance to visit the Luxor, and I advise you all to do it. You will see verification in front of you everywhere you turn of everything that I've ever told you on this broadcast about the mystery religion of Babylon. It's all there. Nothing has been left out. As you go from show to show, you are indoctrinated slowly into the mysteries. You are told that if mankind does not change now, that the future will be bleak, if not non-existent, for mankind upon this earth. Everywhere you hear the phrase repeated, now is the time, now is the time, now is the time. The same phrase that kicked off the French Revolution and the Bolshevik Revolution is now being heard in America. And the great quest, this search for the crystal obelisk in these shows, is really symbolically the search for God. For the obelisk represents the generative force, the force of creation. It makes things happen, gets things done. And what you ultimately discover, and by the way, the discovery, as far as I could see, was only made by a few, is that there is no God. Man is God. That's the theme, and that's what you learn if you're paying attention. Most people that I saw were completely baffled. They had no idea what they were going through and couldn't even figure out the story. And that was amazing. It's amazing, it's entertaining, and it's very, very sad to watch sheeple trying to deal with this great esoteric religion that's all around them and not understanding one single piece of it. I saw it everywhere I went. People would come out of the first episode scratching their head and looking around and wondering what it was all about, what happened here, what, it was a fun ride. And I got to tell you, folks, the ride on that first episode, well, I can't describe it. I will tell you this. You've never been on a ride like it in your life. I can guarantee you that. It is virtual reality. By the way, they have a virtual land there where you can pilot an F-14 Tomcat if you want. And I mean, when it goes up, you go up. If you do a flip, if it does a flip, you do a flip. And you're in that cockpit, and you take off, and you land, or you crash, or you go straight up until you stall and fall back down to the earth. This is an incredible place. When I did the episode, when I explained to you the meaning of 2001, in that movie there was an obelisk, a monolith, a stone, black, remember? Smooth, shiny, everything was reflected in it. And remember when the astronaut went out to investigate it, he couldn't find an opening and finally pulled up a piece of it, looked inside, and there was another universe. Well, I got news for you folks. That stone makes up on the inside a huge monolith, just like in the movie 2001, perfectly polished, as black could ever possibly be in your wildest, darkest nightmares. And it reflects everything that goes on. All of the lights and the laser beams that are flashing through the air are all reflected in this shiny, polished, smooth black stone. It resembles the stone in the meditation room of the United Nations. What you're hearing tonight, ladies and gentlemen, is the indoctrination of the masses, the sheeple, into the exoteric meaning. Not the esoteric, mind you. Only those of us who have been studying that for many years really understand what we're looking at. But the public is being prepared for the New World religion. Make no mistake about that. And we all must prepare for what's coming. For what is coming, for many of us, is not going to be good. Many people will embrace the New World Order and the New World religion. They will not have to think anymore. They will not have to be responsible. Of course, they will have no freedoms. But Daddy will take care of them. Their every need will be furnished as long as they do what they're told, when they're told, how they're told, and worship the God that they're told to worship. Those people will be happy, but many of us will not be happy under those circumstances, and we need to prepare ourselves for the hardships and the trauma that is coming. And as sure as I'm speaking to you tonight, it is coming. A visit to the Luxor Hotel will bring this home to you quickly, quicker than anything that I can think of. And when you see the Excalibur right next door, and down the street the Circus, all built by the same people, and all right out of the control mechanism of the ancient mystery religions of Babylon. When you go down to the lower level, the murals of Egyptian life cover the entire walls of this stairwell, which also, by the way, has escalators. It goes down to the base of the obelisk, which goes up through several floors and then up into the center of this great pyramid and points directly to the apex. At one point I was watching the laser light show when all of a sudden a small port opened in the apex of the pyramid and a pure shaft of light connected with the tip of the obelisk. And a chill went right up my spine and the hair stood up on the back of my neck. And I felt this terrible fear in my belly, knowing that these people are not playing games.
we're going to head up to the Skybeam. The first ladder is 20 feet. The next ladder is almost 40. Only one person on the ladder at a time. These are the guys who keep it alive, though.
What kind of maintenance does something like this require?
We have to clean the tops because if the lenses are dirty, it cuts down on the light output. We also go inside and replace the lamps. We replace the lamps every 2,000 hours.
Wow.
And we have to wear flak jackets because it's a it's a gas tube under extreme pressure, so we have to wear flak jackets, face mask, and everything.
How cool do these lamps to keep them down to?
Well, they run pretty hot, but the ambient temperature, the manufacturer recommends something like if it gets over 100 degrees ambient temperature, then we have to shut them down.
Wow.
So, and we have a sensor that will do that.
About how many watts is one of these?
7,000. And there's 39. It supposedly can be seen in space. Clear.
Yeah, so how quickly will you get blinded if you look down into all of them?
You would definitely have retina burns, but more than that, the UV is off the chart, and the IR, infrared, is off the chart.
I was even more taken aback when all those standing around who had witnessed this laughed and giggled and pointed and thought this was just another wonderful part of the entertainment, having no conception of what they were witnessing. Luxor, by the way, means the source of light. When I went down into the very lowest level, there is a shop there called The Source, with all kinds of Egyptian paraphernalia, books on the translation of the different hieroglyphics and papyrus that have been found throughout Egypt, on the monuments, in the tombs, on the pyramids, the translations of the different stelae, including the Metternich stele, which the stele group is named after. Next to that is a museum. There's a complete reproduction of Tutankhamun's tomb. Then I began to see these photographs of dancing girls and men in chariots, and these were photographs. These were not paintings or prints. These were photographs. And then I saw double doors above which the words theater was displayed. Again, pinned on my press pass, went through those doors, and down in the bowels of this huge, gigantic pyramid was a recreation of the Roman circus. And at night they have huge pageants. The one that's advertised is called the Winds of the Gods. The Winds of the Gods. And at one point, the wall of this huge, tremendous circus, in which you could place a football field, opens up, and they create the Nile River running through this auditorium. Everywhere there are people who will answer your questions, and if you take the boat ride on the tour of the Nile, you will see recreations of all the great monoliths of Egypt, and they will tell you the story of the Osirian cycle of Nut and her children, Isis and Nephthys, Osiris and Set. And at one point you will see the guardian of the secrets of the universe displayed upon the wall. If you don't look up high, you won't see it. The only other place you see it is in the first episode of The Search for the Obelisk. This creature has the exact same facial characteristics and the exact same eyes as the supposedly alien creature on the cover of Whitley Strieber's book, Communion. I told you, actually years ago, when I first began my lecture tours, and all during these radio broadcasts, that all of these things are tied together. They are linked, just as your toe is linked to your head. You may look at your toe and say, that's a toe, it has nothing to do with my head, until you try to cut it off, and then you will find very quickly that it has everything to do with your head. You cannot separate the UFO phenomenon or the stories about aliens visiting the Earth from the New World Order or from the mystery religions or from Las Vegas any more than you can separate your toe from your head without understanding at that point that you made a big mistake. In the Luxor, you can see all of this come together. It comes together very well. You might want to go out and get the latest issue of Time magazine, the January 10th, 1994 issue of Time magazine. That's the January 10th, 1994 issue of Time magazine. On the cover, you will see what I'm talking about. Now, one of the things that I noticed inside the Luxor Hotel is that this could be the city of the future. People could live, work, eat, sleep, be entertained, be born and die, all within that pyramid. All within that pyramid. Something else was going on, ladies and gentlemen, that was insidious in nature. Remember, I told you this is a temple of initiation into the new world religion, the new age religion, into the brave new world, as Aldous Huxley would have called it, and did call it in his book. It came a decade late for George Orwell, but nevertheless it is the same. People are herded like cattle through these things that they pay to see. They're treated like stupid sheeple. And something else occurs that was so significant, I looked around me and could not believe that no one there but me understood what was happening. You go down to the lower level to a counter there and you buy your ticket for these things, and everything has to have this ticket. You are told to hold the ticket in your right hand. It has the UPC on the ticket. You're told not to hold it in your left hand. You must hold it in your right hand with the UPC facing outward from your hand. Every time you go into one of these events, one of these rides on the Nile River ride or the 3 episodes or anything, there's a scanner under which you are told to pass your hand, and it reads the UPC code on the ticket.
People are familiar with the magic bands, but these new magic bands that they just unveiled today are truly amazing. Take a look at this.
And as you can see, it has a lot of the great features that our guests love about the current magic bands, but it has some new capabilities. You saw it has some lights, colors. It has haptics, so it can vibrate, let you know when you're in the proximity of magic. It also has gesture recognition, so that even if my arm is raised, extended, it recognizes all of those. And all of those capabilities are helpful to trigger new magical moments across the Walt Disney World Resort.
There is an attendant standing there. They will not take your ticket and pass it under the scanner for you. You are to do that. It is a form of indoctrination, getting you used to passing your hand under a scanner to get something in return. It is a Pavlovian conditioning. You do it enough, you think nothing of it. And eventually that ticket will disappear, and whatever is being scanned will be in your hand. You see, even when you have trouble and you're not holding the ticket right, they tell you to pass it again, do it again, do it again, do it again, try it again. Only when it becomes obvious that people behind are getting very upset with you holding up the line will the attendant take the ticket and pass it under the scanner for you. For this is a form of conditioning, and you cannot be conditioned if they do it for you. Everything in the Luxor Hotel is an indication of what is to come. Everything. I went into the casino on this day, forgot to tell you I was filmed everything, wore my press pass, and went everywhere. Anywhere I wanted to go, I was treated courteously. People opened doors for me. People offered to set up props for me. In the casino, around the center where the obelisk goes up through the ceiling, there are all the reproductions of the beautiful golden mummy cases and the masks, the death masks. I turned around and saw 2 obelisks on each side of a small stairway and a jackal, and then a door in front, which looked like a tomb, was actually an elevator that goes up 1 floor into the Isis restaurant. So I went up there. It was too dark to videotape up there, but I took still pictures, and they will be in the videotape. We will videotape the still pictures. It is one of the most beautiful foyers that I've ever seen, with ancient Egyptian art, pieces of jewelry in glass cases, On each side of the entryway into the actual restaurant are these huge stone reproductions of Egyptian gods. There are brass, they look like gold, and they may be gold-leafed, snake heads on the ends of all of the furniture, cobra. Inside, in a glass case with a beam of light shining directly down on it, is a statue of Isis in all her glory. It is ornate, dripping with wealth and affluence. Everything, dear listeners, is designed to take you out of yourself and, surrounded by all of this symbolism, indoctrinate you into the New World Order. And you're so astounded and awed by the beauty of all of this, you fail to see the methods of control and the terrible religion and the God that you will be asked to bow to. Now, I'm a true constitutionalist. If you really wanted to bow to that God, I would fight for your right to do it, whether I approved or not. For I came to understand many years ago that if I deny you the right to practice your religion, you could also deny me the right to practice mine. I have no qualms with people practicing the religion they wish to practice. The problem I have is being lied to and deceived and manipulated into doing things and believing things and accepting the loss of freedoms and sovereignty through deception and lies and cunning wit, for the most part being enacted upon an unsuspecting, trusting people. That I despise. And I know that whatever new order or new world they create through these types of procedures will not be the utopia that they promise that it will be, will not be a wonderful world free from crime. No, ladies and gentlemen, it will just be another mountain of lies built upon the last mountain of lies. And someday, somewhere, someone is going to expose the original lie upon which all of this was built, and the whole structure will come tumbling down. I hope that the hour of the time is functioning in some way toward that end. Only you know the answer to that. I am constantly amazed that all of this is flaunted in front of the people. You see, it's all out in the open now for anyone who cares to look, and from our research we found that it's never really been hidden during this century. Of course, the manipulations are built upon masterful lies. But if you want to do the research and look, you can always find the truth behind the lie, because it's not hidden. The way that they've been able to get away with all of these things is very simply, they believe, and in most instances they're right, that most people don't want to think for themselves and will never look. Therefore, they don't even hide anything. That's a shame. It is, in fact, an indictment of all of the American people and the people of the world. It's always been my hope to be able to wake the sheeple.
They will not frame their doings to turn unto their God, for the spirit of whoredoms is in the midst of them, and they have not known the Lord. For the spirit of whoredoms is in the midst of them. My people ask counsel at their stocks, and their staff declareth unto them. For the spirit of whoredoms hath caused them to err, and they have gone a-whoring from under their God. To the angel of the church in Thyatira write, These things saith the Son of God, who hath his eyes like unto a flame of fire, and his feet are like fine brass. I know thy works, and charity, and service, and faith, and thy patience, and thy works. Notwithstanding, I have a few things against thee, because thou sufferest that woman Jezebel, which calleth herself a prophetess, to teach and to seduce my servants to commit fornication, and to eat things sacrificed unto idols. And I gave her space to repent of her fornication, and she repented not. Behold, I will cast her into a bed, and them that commit adultery with her into great tribulation, except they repent of their deeds. And I will kill her children with death. And all the churches shall know that I am he which searcheth the reins and hearts. And I will give unto every one of you according to your works. But unto you I say, and unto the rest in Thyatira, as many as have not this doctrine, and which have not known the depths of Satan, because thou sufferest that woman Jezebel, there came one of the 7 angels which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, Come hither, I will show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. With whom the kings of the earth have committed fornication, and the inhabitants of the earth have been made drunk with the wine of her fornication. So he carried me away in the spirit into the wilderness, and I saw a woman sit upon a scarlet-colored beast, and the woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet color, and decked with gold and precious stones and pearls, having a golden cup in her hand, full of abominations and filthiness of her fornication. And upon her forehead was a name written: Mystery, Babylon the Great, the mother of harlots and abominations of the earth. Another voice from heaven saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues. For her sins have reached unto heaven, and God hath remembered her iniquities. Reward her even as she rewarded you, and double unto her double according to her works. In the cup which she hath filled, fill to her double. How much she hath glorified herself and lived deliciously, so much torment and sorrow give her. For she saith in her heart, I sit a queen, and am no widow, and shall see no sorrow. Therefore shall her plagues come in one day, death and mourning and famine, and she shall be utterly burned with fire, for strong is the Lord God who judgeth her. Rejoice over her, thou heaven, and ye holy apostles and prophets, for God hath avenged you on her. And a mighty angel took up a stone like a great millstone, and cast it into the sea, saying, Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. For by thy sorceries were all nations deceived, and in her was found the blood of prophets, and of saints, and of all that were slain upon the earth. And after these things I heard a great voice of much people in heaven, saying, Hallelujah! Salvation and glory and honor and power unto the Lord our God. For true and righteous are his judgments. For he hath judged the great whore, which did corrupt the earth with her fornication, and hath avenged the blood of his servants at her hand. again they said, Hallelujah. And her smoke rose up forever and ever.
around. Knocking the door will be open to you, and He will come on in and talk with you a while. Hallelujah. Yes, He will. He'll come in. He'll come in. If you're seeking, He'll come in. If you're seeking, He'll come in. Bless your name, Jesus. Bless your name, Jesus. Thank you, Jesus. Thank you, Lord.